Hello, welcome. The House is in session. Today we're talking about House Resolution 1599, which was introduced by Kansas Senator Mike Pompeo, who would become a familiar name as a couple years later he would become the Secretary of State under the Trump administration. This bill is also known as the Safe and Accurate Food Labeling Act and was originally introduced on the 25th of March, 2015. This was a Republican-backed bill that aimed to fight GMO labeling in foods in America and aimed to provide guidelines for both the USDA and FDA, the major food labeling and food systems rule makers, so to speak, to provide them with guidelines in how to conduct themselves in terms of GMO products, otherwise known as genetically engineered foods. This bill, like I said, was introduced in March and went through a couple rounds of committee development and committee swapping, if you will. It was originally introduced to the Agriculture Committee as well as the Energy Committee, and then within those committees went to subcommittees. The subcommittees then decided that it would be more beneficial for the Agriculture Committee to head this bill on, and they made a majority of the amendments. And we'll see, it took them about 3 to 4 months to actually get to a point where the amendments were satisfactory and the titles had been outlined to a point where the bill could be brought up to the House floor as a whole, which it inevitably did about 4 months later in July. So this bill is broken down into 3 main titles. The first one being the Food Safety Affirmation for certain plant products. That's title number 1. And it essentially involves the FDA requiring that GMO foods in their labeling cannot discredit non-GMO foods in their benefits or detractors, meaning that a GMO food cannot say that a food that is the same but non-GMO is going to be better or worse for someone. They have to keep it neutral. It also requires the USDA to come up with a list of GMO plants that can be sold as food. The second title is the biggest title of all. It's the Genetic Engineering Certification. And this involved establishing a program that allowed people who are producing genetically engineered food to essentially register and become certified, allowing them to create a food plan. And it also involves people who are producing these genetically engineered foods to have a food plan that involved how they were handling and how they were distributing their genetically modified foods. As we know it today, the last one is simply about natural food and prompts the USDA to reevaluate the term natural food. It's a simple title, but the 3 make up this bill. And we'll see that this is our initial date, the 25th of March, and then on the 16th of July, the bill would be ready with the Agricultural Committee. It'd be brought to the House floor, and then a couple days later, on the 23rd, it was brought to vote. And like I said, this is a Republican-backed bill with a majority Republican support, so it ended up being a vote of 275 to 150 in the pass. So this bill was able to pass in the House on the 23rd of July, and then what would happen after? 2 days later, it would be sent over to the colleagues in the Senate, read over twice on the Senate floor, and then referred to the Senate Committee on Agriculture, Forestry, and Nutrition. And that's the last we've heard of this bill. It has not moved since, and unfortunately, it's not likely that it's going to move anytime soon. So this has been a quick summary of House Resolution 1599, and although we did not see it be deliberated in the Senate or become law, even pass the Senate, let's not even talk about becoming law first, it died essentially. However, it provided a interesting, framework to debate over. Should we regulate the labeling of GMO foods? Should we not? It sparks a conversation and prompts future lawmakers to perhaps bring the topic back up, and it has provided for a point of discussion and is why we're here now talking about it. So thank you so much for your time. The House is adjourned.